Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. How are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are doing well. Today guys, I'll be checking out this interesting video from Walsh, and it's titled "Watch Kamala Harris Get Wrecked in Brutal Interview." You guys, I'm excited for this. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please consider subscribing. Give this video a massive thumbs up, and without much ado, let's see what Walsh has for us in this video.
Yesterday, we talked about Kamala allegedly mulling an appearance on Joe Rogan. And I think that it's safe to say that after her Fox interview last night, Rogan is probably off the table because she sat down for an interview with Bret Baier, and something that, you know, as we talked about yesterday, she never would have done this unless she was desperate. I mean, there's no way that back in August, sitting down for a Fox News interview was something that they considered to be in the cards. But they're doing it now because it's a Hail Mary pass. It's the kind of thing that you lob into the air if you feel like you have no choice. High risk proposition. And in this case, the risk really did not pay off. It was pretty much a disaster. She did as bad as you would expect, if not worse. So let's go through some of these clips from this interview. We'll start with this. Here they are. And this is how the interview began, talking about the border crisis. Let's watch.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act.
So you basically get how this went. She filibustered. It's funny, she said in that, when she started to answer the question or not answer it. So let's get to the point. Well, but getting to the point is exactly, of course, what she didn't do and never does. For her, answering a question is always a game of frantically avoiding the point at all costs. But she's not, and she's not the only politician in the country who handles interviews that way. Most of them do. She's just really bad at it. She's very bad at it. So that's how it went. And Bret Baier tried valiantly to get her to answer the question, and she would ramble and filibuster. The only difference is that Bret was really the first interviewer who has ever called her out on this and not allowed her to just get away with it.
Yeah.
And this dynamic also was very evident when she was asked about Biden's cognitive decline. This is maybe the most striking moment in the interview. Let's watch.
You call Donald Trump, he's misguided. You say now he's unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
But
is,
you talked about it.
And Donald Trump
after George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out, even people who worked for him in the Oval Office.
First of all, it's amazing that this is the first time she's ever been directly asked that question. She pushed Biden out, took over the nomination, and has never been asked about it. You know, even though, I mean, think about this: when she refuses, as she always does, to take accountability for the disasters of the Biden administration, when she just dismisses any suggestion that the last 4 years count for anything, the implied reasoning behind that is that the president had dementia, right? Like, she's not going to come out and say that, but her actual argument, we all know, is that, well, the last 4 years don't count because the guy at the top is senile, and you can't hold that against me. So that's kind of and any of her voters, however many she ends up having, that's also their reasoning. That's going to be their reason. Like anyone who's going to give her another 4 years, it's going to be under the assumption that, yeah, oh, well, but the president, this is not her fault. The guy is senile.
What are your thoughts on this video so far? I don't know how Kamala Harris was able to make it this far to come out as a presidential candidate, because this woman I am looking at right here doesn't strike me as someone who is intelligent, not to talk of being the next president of America. I don't even know what to say, but the way she is able to switch everything around and blame Donald Trump is totally mind-boggling. Seeing the amount of hatred Kamala Harris has on Donald Trump really bothers me. And let me know what you guys think about this interview. I love the fact that Brett Bear is not backing down with a question and calling her out at every single turn. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and let's continue watching, you guys.
And in spite of that, she's never asked about it until today. And you heard how just shifty and dishonest her answer was. But my favorite moment was probably this one.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me.
Wow.
So that was probably my favorite part. Is you and I both know what I'm talking about. Actually, I don't. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And you speak for all of us, Brett. Nobody knows what the hell she's talking about. Least of all does Kamala know what Kamala's talking about. All she can do is reflexively pivot to Trump, blame him, even though she's been in office, not him. And it was a pathetic, weak, pitiful performance. A very unimpressive performance. And that's the word I think that best fits Kamala. I was thinking as I watched these clips that she is an exceedingly unimpressive person. I think she is the least impressive, the most unimpressive presidential candidate in American history. And I think that's not hyperbole. I mean, there have been some duds, of course, but she's the most unimpressive. There's just nothing formidable about this person at all. She has no impressive traits. She's like the Carolina Panthers of politicians or something like that. And that's almost worse than being, say, the Browns. The Browns are a dysfunctional disaster all the time. And you could say that dysfunctional disaster describes Kamala, but I think it's more accurate to say that she's just this dull, bad, kind of blah all the time. It's just nothing. She's a very low ceiling, let's say. So if she's going to smash the glass ceiling, it better be no more than 4 feet off the ground, because that's as high as she can get. And it's different from, say, like Barack Obama was a bad president, but a very bad president. When all is said and done, he may go down as the worst president of all time. I mean, the other competition, of course, is Joe Biden. But when you look at the kind of the pivot point of Barack Obama's presidency, his 8 years, and just what a disaster it's been for the country and the culture. But on a personal level, there were some impressive things about him. He had rhetorical skills. He had charisma. George Bush, also not a very impressive man, but at least had a kind of swagger and personality to him. Like even our bad presidents had traits that explained how they became president. You could look at them, and even if you don't like them and you think they're terrible, you could say, okay, yeah, I can see how that happened. I can see how it happened.
But nothing for Kamala.
But with Kamala, and she's not president yet, thank God, but still, you look at this person and there's just nothing there. Incredibly unimpressive. Joe Biden would be second place on the list of the most unimpressive. But at least he used to have political skills. He doesn't anymore because he has dementia. But Kamala, I mean, what are her skills?
Nothing.
Really, what are her? Even if you're you're dyed-in-the-wool Kamala supporter, you're going to vote for her. I even to you, I would pose that question non-rhetorically. What are her great skills? What's the most impressive thing about this person? Really? And that's what comes across, which is why I think, as I've said before, I think the campaign, they wanted to keep her away from interviews, keep her away from unscripted moments. And they wanted to do what they were doing for the first couple weeks of the campaign, where she only did the rallies and they brought the celebrities out, and they were building this hype train around her that had nothing to do with her specifically, but they were just kind of turning her into this fictional character who you never even saw except at the rallies when she was delivering a scripted speech. And they obviously wanted to do that. Their plan was to try to, if they could have got away with doing that for the whole 3 months before the election, they would have. And I think it was a strategic mistake. I think they should have just, politically, strategically, they should have just stuck with that. Don't do a single interview. Don't do a single press conference. Only do the rallies. Have the celebrities come out and just do that. Just coast on the vibes and try to do it for 3 months. That was their best chance. And yeah, she would have got killed for it by people like me. She would have, conservative media would have continued to criticize her harshly for not doing any interviews and being scared. But this is what happens. It's like the quote, whoever, it's better to say nothing and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. And I think that she probably should have taken that to heart, but it's too late now.
You guys, what are your thoughts on this video? I totally agree with Matt Walsh on this. Kamala should have stick with not going for any interview, because the more she goes for interview, the more she ends up shooting herself in the leg, because she has nothing to offer except she has been prepped for that particular interview. Kamala Harris is not in the right position. She is not the right person to be the president of America. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.